everyone, and thank you for joining Collaborative Divorce Vancouver's channel, where everything is collaborative. Here we interview experienced professionals like lawyers, financials, and mental health professionals to give you an insight into how collaborative divorce works. Today with us, we have Jon Lazar, a lawyer who works in Jon Lazar Law. Thank you for being with us today, Jon. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why do you choose to practice collaborative law?
Good question. It's sort of a long progression of life. I've been practicing family law exclusively for about 25, almost 27 years. I think 27 years coming up, sorry. And I did regular old litigation work and non-collaborative work back in the day, and just found over time that there had to be different ways of doing that, and I had tremendous supports from others. I worked at the time with Danny, Zach, and Larry Kahn out in Richmond, and they both really wanted me to advance mediation training and advance collaborative training. And as I did the training, which is now going back 15 or 16 years ago, I realized that was a better way of helping families through things, and that going to court and litigation is really, it should never happen, but I'm not naive to think that we'll ever get rid of the courts. There are certainly situations that will require it, but at the end of the day, I realize 98% of family law cases will settle before a trial if they're in court. So why not start by settling at the beginning and not, worry about the trial part? And it saves time, it saves costs, it saves anguish and trauma, and that's sort of a gradual evolution to how I got to where I really enjoy what I do.
That's great. And what is your role in the collaborative process as a lawyer?
So, well, as the lawyer in the process, we're always look at a collaborative process as a team approach. So for the lawyering side, primarily you're looking at, the legalities about children, so their guardianship and their parenting responsibilities. You're looking at dealing with income determinations and support numbers, and then also with asset division, property division, pension division, and things like that. So that's the lawyering piece. And then subcategorized to that is you would have hopefully a financial neutral, could not only do some gathering of the financial information, but to help us analyze it, help us look at it, help run scenarios. So while the lawyer technically is saying, okay, well, I'll help you with the asset division piece, the financials are a tremendous part of getting to that conclusion. The same with the children. While the lawyering part is, sure, there's legal guardianship of children, legal parental responsibilities, but it's the parenting coaches and divorce coaches that help frame the communication styles for the parents, frame the scheduling for the kids and the parents. So the lawyer, I see it as just being part of a team, and each group of that team has a little bit responsibility within it.
Wow. And what's one of your favorite stories of an outcome from a separation that was done collaboratively? Do you have?
God, I've done so many. I get to think of a favorite. I'll just pick yesterday. I got a call from a client who we resolved the matter collaboratively back in 2015, so 8 years ago. Nothing's changed, but now the kids are getting a bit older. They had young kids at the time. The kids are now in their early teens, and he had some questions about reviewing child support and what do they do. But the nice thing was, like, this family, which was not, they had some conflict at the time years ago, and just the fact that I can hear from someone back 8 years later that things actually worked out really well. The kids are doing great. The parents' communication has been better. And here he had one little question that, again, he was just going to get together with his ex-wife, sit down, have a coffee, and they'll work it out. Because I think with the collaborative process, we help that family realize that through dialogue, through communication, as hard as that can be sometimes to do, that really is the best way of moving forward from all aspects, from a cost aspect, from a conflict aspect. It's not easy work at the beginning, but I think if you set parents with that right foundation. So, that's just one of hundreds, if not thousands, of stories that all of us in the collaborative group can talk about. You're really helping people move forward in their own situation and trying to give them the building blocks and the foundation that they can co-parent and be civil with each other as they move forward.
And that's the most important thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a family-focused practice. It's not, what different, in a litigated context, where the lawyer is literally like pounding the table and demanding X and Y or Z for their client's position, and only interested in what their client wants. It's a very narrow focus. With all due respect to my litigation colleagues, it's a narrowed focus. As a collaborative focus, we're looking at the whole picture. We're looking at the family unit, the economics of the family, the kids, the futures, the parenting. Especially if people have kids, like not all collaborative files have children, but a lot of them do. I mean, if you have children together, you're going to be their parents the rest of their lives and your lives. And you can't just sort of demand X and Y and Z for today, because there's a huge future. And I think the other failing of litigation side of things is there's too much dwelling on the past. He or she did this in the past, therefore he or she are going to do this in the future. Collaborative practice is forward and future focusing. We acknowledge there's a past. We acknowledge that this couple has got to where they were at this stage, but you have to look forward. You have to say, things change. You might have a situation where one spouse, went to work a lot because that's their role in the relationship. And now that the relationship is as severed, they say, hey, you know what? I need to be there for the children more time. I mean, they have to make this life adjustment. And a lot of times in litigation cases, it's almost like, well, you can't change. The past is the past and has to stay for the future, where a collaborative focus is, okay, there is a past, but there's now a new future. I mean, it's a new future for this family. Where does this team fit in? How do we get the parenting coaches, the financial neutrals, child specialists, whatever pieces of the puzzle we need in the team to help this family move forward? And it's that team approach and recognizing that we all have a little bit of professional insight to help this family move forward, but let's move forward. Let's get them going in the right direction.
So speaking of going in the right direction, what advice would you give a best friend or a family member before they embark on separation?
I think my first advice is totally self-serving, as it is to say, is go speak to a collaborative settlement-based lawyer. And I mean, it depends on the level. This happens, by the way. I've had multiple friends, thankfully not family, but multiple friends, close friends, who've gone through separation, and that's all I tell them. I say, go to these. Each of you go to these 3, 4, 5, 6 choices of colleagues, and at least have the initial conversation. So it does depend what stage they're at. I mean, if you have a couple that are intertwined financially and they know each other's financial situation, then it's different than where you have one situation where someone manages all the finances and the other doesn't. But I think getting some initial advice, that's on the lawyering side. If their situation is one that's more parenting focused, like, I don't know what the schedule is going to be, what are we going to do about the kids, I actually might send them to a coach first, rather than to a lawyer. And if they're very cooperative and can communicate well, but they just want to have a sense of how we're going to divide the pot of money or assets, then I might send them to a financial first and say, look, the lawyering could be the secondary piece. I mean, again, it's self-serving as the lawyer to say, go to a lawyer, but underlying all of this work, it is you're signing a legal contract, a separation agreement, and there's a lawyering element to it. So having lawyers involved at some point, but the best advice I would give them is just to go to a collaborative settlement-based person right at the beginning. I mean, nothing will help a case more than having a couple who have lawyers who are there with that settlement mediation-based mentality rather than the litigation positional-based mentality. That's the best footing people can start off on.
That's great. And before we sign off, is there anything else you would like to tell us about your experience with Collaborative?
I've been doing this for a long time, and I just find that every year it gets better. There's more and more colleagues getting involved with this. More and more people know about it. It's taken, I guess my one downfall is that the average person probably doesn't know as much about collaborative, but it's just taking a long time to get the information about what collaborative practice is out to the public. But once people go through a collaborative process, the referrals that we all get as colleagues, myself or my colleagues you get referrals from former clients. That's the biggest source of our referral base, is because they went through a difficult time of their lives. They managed it through a process that really gave them thought and praise after, to go, yeah, you know what, we did a good job, we did okay. And then they're the ones that when their friends and their family ask for referrals, that's the best compliment we can get, is that they or their friends or families come back and say, hey, my wife and I, or husband and I, or wife and my wife are separating, and we'd like to do this collaboratively. That's the best advertisement we can get, is word of mouth. So that I'd like more people to know about it. Do we have the ability to get more people to know? We try. I mean, again, I think just more of the public understanding that there is an alternative. You don't just have to file court papers or sit back and stay in a miserable situation. You can get help from supportive people. Again, a supportive team of people that are there to take on each of our little roles and put together the best path for the family.
Thank you so much, Jon, for taking the time.
My pleasure. Anytime, and I'm glad to help out.
And if you want to know more about Jon Lazar, visit our link down below on our website, and you can reach out to him. Thank you so much, Jon.
Thanks. My pleasure.